Ahoy! In the most recent Forged in Eternum, the devs talked about the difficulty of implementing certain features into the game. In that context, they also dropped some hints about how gearset storage will likely work. The first question they talked about was why the servers can't have 20,000 players. The first reason they mentioned is that the amount of data that has to be sent to players would be extremely high in that case. They say that other games are able to have bigger servers than New World because New World relies on action combat, not tap targeting, so the timing and placement of inputs in the world has to be very precise. Also, some of the current design choices would not scale well with a 20,000 player server. For example, gather all resources are currently not instanced, and it would be extremely hard to find sufficient resources in the world if there were so many players, and similar issues would exist for territory control when there's just not enough territories to fight over with that player number. It is somewhat funny that they were talking about 20,000 or 30,000 players, but it is actually known that once upon a time Jeff Bezos' plan was to have 10,000 players per server. They've clearly learned a lot of lessons since then. As the next topic, they talked about gearset storage, and they asked why can we not just put some mannequins in the house with the gear and be done with it. The first reason is that data has to be stored between play sessions so that when you log in you have the same equipment and so on. There's a limited budget for that, which basically requires further optimization in order to accommodate for more items or gear sets that have to be saved in a specific combination. Likewise, the visual design and the UI for such systems also takes quite a while, and they have to be very careful when introducing anything that changes items because there's always the risk of dupes as well. Now for the interesting hint, Dave said that people may want to switch attributes and weapon mastery along with the gear set. So they had to consider if they're doing all of that at once or just the gear. This would be very interesting to see if we could just switch our gear from, say, light to heavy, and then all of our attributes switch along with that, and maybe even our weapon skills and everything else that could be changed, which would be much more convenient overall. Scott also hinted at a possibility of partial gear sets if there are certain parts that players don't want to switch often, like jewelry for example. To the question why they can't just introduce another weapon, they said that there are multiple factors playing into that as well. The first one was scale, saying that weapons spawn things with effects and that can be a problem. Though I don't really understand that one, because if you're using another weapon you're still gonna spawn things, so introducing a new weapon wouldn't really change that. It would just mean that they're using a different weapon instead of the one that was spawning things before. Then there are of course balance issues with new weapons, and also in order to even make new weapons you need new animations, new effects, and multiple new weapon designs, as well as adding a bunch of new rewards, a bunch of named drops for that item as well. So there's a lot more work going into it than just making the weapon itself. Separately from that, they also mentioned that a lot of features are basically being built on the technical side. They're building up the foundation for new stuff, and that competes with releasing new stuff right now. They're currently building the technical foundation for features that aren't even going to release for a year and working on the polish for that, so that affects what they can release at this very moment as well. A statement that stuck with me was sometimes things are super easy but take a long time, and as an example they said counting to 1,000,000 would be one of those. It's easy to count to 1,000,000, but that doesn't mean it's fast. So while a feature may seem easy to implement, it might still take quite a while to get to us. On the topic of easily fixable things, I'm working on a video about things that are very easy to fix for the most part but would greatly improve the game. If you're interested in that, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. That will be coming out tomorrow. Also, in the next days we'll talk about a different gear loadout that may be better with the next patch. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. SLOTH out.